Hello there! Today's project is my second ever ball jointed doll, and a kind of part 2 to this video of me making my first ever ball jointed doll, called the prototype. If you haven't seen it, last year I started the journey of learning how to sculpt, print, and customize my own ball jointed dolls, while having literally done none of those things before. I finally finished the prototype in August 2025 and immediately started the second prototype. By prototype I mean that these two dolls are practice for the process and general mechanics, so I can learn how to make functioning BJDs in whatever shape or style I want to, which is not how BJDs work. Usually you work on one body sculpt and refine that one and make new heads or hands for customization, but I'm more interested in making fully custom sculpts for most of the dolls I want to make because I'm an ambitious person. My last doll was supposed to be just a general test that then turned into a mini-me, but this time I'm aiming to make a specific character. Roy, my original character. Let's sculpt. This time I wanted to pay more attention to the inside structure from the start, so I mark where the magnets go, how wide the elastic channel should be, and how wide the slits in the joint should be, before starting to block out all the shapes. I picture Roy having a pretty strong frame, so in addition to the references of the doll schematic in Blender, I was also looking at another reference for muscles, and the sculpt turned out really good. Crazy how that works. The reference I used is the statue of David. I don't know why, but it's the first thought I had. I also wanted to give him some huge boobs. I mean some serious hunkers. A real set of badonkers. Packing some double hunkaroos. Massive dohong kapaukalus. Big old dohong carry cougars. I did the cutout knee plate kind of joint again, this time only on the knees and not on the elbows. I want part of my doll style to be having fun shapes for the knees that match the characters. His design has a lot of hearts in it, so obviously I made his heart shape. Should I have done such a complicated shape for my second doll? Probably not, but it never even crossed my mind to not do that, so I figured it out. I did make a pretty big mistake when it comes to the knees, which you will see later. I once again hollow out the body too much. If you haven't seen my last video, the channels and holes the elastic passes through should only be slightly larger than the elastic itself for better stability and posing later, I think. I haven't actually sculpted a doll where I test if that is indeed solving anything. Instead of having the face come off like on my first doll, I went with the simpler back of the skull bisection. I didn't want to deal with figuring that out again. And I didn't need an easy way of removing the face because he doesn't have eyes that I need to shove in there. Speaking of which, yeah, he doesn't have eyes. Because reasons, don't worry about it. The swirls in them aren't part of his actual design. I added them for fun with the swirl sculpting brush on a whim and decided to keep it. I might add them to his design, actually. I sculpted two hand poses, a neutral one and a pointing one, so I can later pose him like his PNG. In my last doll video, I made shoes out of fabric and clay. And I disliked the process so much that I didn't put any effort into them and also didn't film making them at all. So for Roy, I am sculpting them. I kind of wish I liked making shoes. There's something about being able to remove everything from a doll and having everything be functional and using the materials that are used in actual clothing, you know? But sculpting shoes is better than sculpting feet. I'm not sure how I'll do boots, but that's a problem for future me. I really like the sculpt. The proportions look nice, his face turned out like I wanted, and in general it looks like him. Yay! This is my updated setup. Except for the cleaning fluid I'm using, which right now is water, because I use water washable resin. The problem is that it gets foggy and cleans the pieces worse, because it's full of uncured resin. I want to replace it with methylated spirits that supposedly never get foggy, or at least last longer than water. But like, no one really talks about how to dispose of things correctly, just how you shouldn't. So this is how I did it. I took the whole vat of water outside and left it in the sun for like a week because I forgot about it, and then filtered it with a coffee filter. If you have a better way, please tell me. Roy's skin tone is darker and redder than the beige resin I have, so I got this red resin to mix with it. It is a clear resin, but it didn't change the transparency of the printed pieces. I mixed the skin tone directly in the printer vat. That's fine, it works. But I did need to remix it 3 times and I got 3 different colors. So I need to get some kind of mixing container because I will be mixing custom skin tones a lot. I surprisingly didn't get any fails at all during the whole process, even with each printing session having a different red to beige resin ratio. I use the same settings as I did for my first doll. However, I think I will need to change them. The print layers are just too visible to me, especially on the face, so I'll need to make them thinner. Am I being a perfectionist about this? Yes. Moving on. The way I mixed the resin added a lot of bubbles, which did create some very minor holes in some pieces. At least I think that's what caused those holes. So maybe it's not fine to mix directly in the vat. Because of the aforementioned visible print layers, I spent way too long sanding. I thought I was being smart by using a Dremel. I wasn't. I wanted to use the Dremel for polishing and for not leaving scuff marks, but it just made everything worse. It was useful for support bumps, but it's not worth getting it out just for that. I then sprayed everything with a layer of matte varnish from the Army Painter to prepare the surface for paint and pastels later. I made the hooks and bars for stringing the doll. Pro tip, make the hooks out of really strong wire. Paper clip wire isn't enough. I had to remake them because they got bent out of shape when I was trying to string him. And added all the magnets in the head, hands, and feet shoes. My least favorite thing about the prototype is that it can't hold a pose. In an attempt to fix that on Roy, I'm going to use a technique called suading. Basically, the goal is to add a layer between the smooth surface of the joint and the smooth surface of the socket for more friction, and so that they don't wear each other down. There are two main ways of doing this. One is with hot glue, where you just spread hot glue over the socket of the joints. I tried doing this, but the glue wouldn't stick to the resin. I know it works for other people on resin, so I don't know what I did wrong. The other way is with fabric. I followed this tutorial. Now that all the pieces are ready, it's time to put this guy together. He's a little tight, that's what she said, but I was done. It took me 4 goddamn hours to get to this point. His legs are under a lot of tension, that's what she said, but if I make the string any looser, they won't hold a pose. This is definitely because of the elastic I used. It's too hard and stiff, so it doesn't allow for a lot of stretching. So to stop his legs from contracting, I stick some wire in them, which is called wiring. Very creative, I know. He still can't stand straight, which is fine, I don't think he would anyway. The most tedious thing about stringing is figuring out how long the elastic needs to be, and I will have to re-figure that out for every doll since they'll be different sizes. So I was thinking I could use one of those cord lock things instead of tying and untying knots. I'll test that on the next one. Anyway, I'm killing him for making my hands hurt. First thing I'm going to do is suffocate and cover him in glue for his numerous crimes to make the wig cap, so he won't be bald. Aren't I so kind? I won't be using human hair for this one. Very sad and disappointing, I know. I'll be using acrylic yarn instead. I cut multiple short strands and tie about 4 per weft to the hanger. With yarn this thick, I should have done less. Maybe 2 per. The less turned out a little thick. I use a pet brush that my ferrets don't use anymore to brush out the yarn. Flatten the chunks with a small straightener, and glue them into wefts using a ruler and a hotel key room from Norway that I stole circa 2017. Let's make his outfit while I procrastinate the wig, let the wefts dry. I made his tank top first and patterned it using the cling wrap and tape method. For the fabric I used an old shirt. Not tight enough. That's better. It's so tight that I have to de-arm him to get it on. Don't forget to press your seams, even on doll clothes. The graphic on his shirt is 3 hearts. He used to have a shirt that just said Minecraft on it, so when I redesigned him to be more heart themed, that became a reference to those shirts with 2.5 Minecraft hearts on them. Y'all know what I'm talking about. When I looked up those shirts, I can't find any, and I feel like I'm going crazy. The wefts are dry now. I cleaned those up and trimmed the wig cap. And while I glue the wefts on, since this is an OC, you may be wondering if there's any lore for this guy. No, not really. He just kind of shows up sometimes, says some shit and leaves. He's me like any of the others are me, but he's more me, but he's not, and he's not a self-insert, but he's also not that, but he's also really not that, like he's super not me. Does that make sense? Most of my OCs are based on characters I liked, the surface level concept of when I was like 14. Roy here is based on, as you might be able to tell from the glasses, Fresh Sans. And if you don't know what those 2 words mean, hi mom, Undertale is a video game from 2015, and this guy called Sans is in it. People freaking love this guy, so they made their own versions, and one of them was called Fresh Sans. He's called Fresh Sans because he has a 90s aesthetic, says things like radical, and is overall very awesome and cool. Now I would like to emphasize that he's based on the surface level concept of Fresh, his personality and his looks. I did not know the lore of the skeleton. Was I deep in the Undertale trenches circa 2017? Yes. But I wasn't on Tumblr, so I only got fan dubs of certain comics. I didn't know who these people were. I only knew that this arcade carpet would show up, say some shit and leave. Maybe be a little spooky sometimes. And I would like to emphasize that that is all I knew. 42. Why are you emphasizing so much that you didn't know his lore? It's almost like Roy's lore is similar, but only when you overthink it too much, and it isn't really all that similar. Well, you'll find out in Noxas, my maybe comic that will come out in like 2030 that he's in like twice. With all the wefts glued on, I can now procrastinate the wig again and go back to making his clothes. I still don't know how to make pants, but that can't and will never stop me from making pants. I made a mock-up and adjusted the pattern to better fit his flat ass. I tried to give him real pockets, but they didn't look right, so fake pockets it is. My original plan was to hand sew all the clothes I make for my dolls, ever, but doll 2 and I already went back to my machine. In my defense, the pieces are bigger than I thought they would be. The fabric I used is an old stretchy pillowcase, emphasis on the stretchy, so I had to do some last minute alterations. Off camera, I added belt loops and buttons that I will replace or get rid of in a second. His belt is made from a strip of chair pleather. I glued fabric to the back of it that I will rip off later. Now to replace those unstable belt loops. I thought about using embroidery thread before coming to my senses and just using iron-on interfacing. I also made a heart-shaped fake belt buckle out of wire. I wanted the pants to hold the cartoony flared tube shape, and I had the idea to use some stiff tulle, like a petticoat insert thing, and it worked surprisingly well. I added pleats to the bottom for extra detail, which also solved the slight issue of the pants being a tiny bit too short. But it was such a good idea. God, I'm so smart. The pants have this heart and stitch detail. The exclamation the stitches are in is a reference to my comic's old logo back when it was called The Hunters. To make his collar, I used the same chair pleather as for the belt. He has a collar for a very important character reason, actually, and that is because I, as his creator, drew him wearing one. Crowning his jacket wasn't too bad. I first got the general shape down out of newspaper and a mock-up, and cut that pattern into the blocks of colors on the main part of his jacket. I thought the edge looked unfinished, so I seam ripped it and sewed in pieces of a zipper I had from old bed sheets or something. I didn't add the heart pattern until now because reasons. First pinning them, then using seam tape to hold them on. and hand sewing them on around the edges. I also sew on fake pockets. And the last step is painting on the white stripes on all the black parts. I'm pretty proud of how the jacket turned out. It feels finished and it looks like his even with the slightly off colors. Last piece of his outfit I need to make are his glasses. I made them from black paper with a wire glued to the inside so they hold their shape. Very disappointingly, I couldn't think of a way to put LEDs in doll-sized glasses, nor could I think of a way to have them be able to change what they say on them. I had to go with boring old acrylic paint and his default yellow text. The letters used to be different colors before I redesigned him and drowned him in pink. I did major redesigns of all my OCs last year, and I've been going back and forth on making a video where I talk about them. Maybe a video about the evolution of their designs and personalities? I don't know. I don't want to make a video about character lore or story lore. I want my maybe comic to be most people's first impression of them and for it to stand on its own. But I don't know how to talk about OCs in a non-lore way other than surface level design stuff. So comment bait, what do y'all think? A video about only the most recent designs, the evolution of their designs, or no video? To finish Roy's glasses and to make them nice and glossy, I cover them in a few layers of UV resin. Okay, I can't procrastinate this any longer. Time to style the wig. I'm not going to explain anything about this process, but no, his bangs were not drawn with reality in mind. In the end, it didn't turn out that bad. It looks good enough, and that's what I aim for. These shoes were very easy and quite satisfying to paint. I gave them a few layers of white gesso, then blocked in the black. Cleaning up the edges of the black was so satisfying. Look at that. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So satisfying. I decided to outline all the details on the shoe. It kind of gives them a flat 2D look, especially because I didn't shade them with a wash or pastels. It's a fun effect. Saving the best for last, I'm gonna show the test face I did this time, half of which is taped off right now because, surprise, I got MSC. I already sprayed everything with the Army Painter's matte varnish, but I still wanted to test if there was a difference if I sprayed MSC on top of it. Spoiler, there wasn't. No. I'll test it on the next doll. I tried two ways of filling in the black voids that are his eyes. On the right, I only painted the back, so I left something like a waterline, and that looks a lot better than painting the entire inside.
No, don't drink my spray. It's my spray. Stop! Drink it. Get out.
I did the left side first with a natural eyebrow and more basic shading. On the right, I did a more 2D style to match the shoes, with outlines on the eyelid, nose, and ear, a flat eyebrow, and stark white highlights. This is the style I'll be going for on the actual face. I really like how he looks. I went all in with the pastels to make his face more red. I also went ham blushing his body. For Christmas, I got some pastels I'm very excited to use. Most of my OCs have mid-skin tones. like mid-tone, not mediocre, like, you know what I mean. This selection of pastels just wasn't going to cut it. And while I was doing that, I fixed his knees. If you haven't noticed, while I was stringing him, they cracked and some bits fell off. I made that area too thin, so I was expecting it. His hands I did off camera, and after one final spray, he's ready to be assembled.
You know me, the fighting freak Knuckles, and we're at Pumpkin Hill. You ready? I ain't gonna let
I really like how he turned out, from the sculpt to the clothes to even the hair to some extent. But just like my last doll, he has one major issue: his legs. The mechanics of this doll need professional help, possibly an exorcist. But I'm not going to dwell on it. I think I know how to fix it, which I will hopefully be doing with my next doll, Z. I've mentioned my original characters a few times in this video, and not just because and not just because Roy is one of them, and because I constantly think about them, like all the time. Seriously, if you ever think I'm not thinking about them, you're wrong. I'm this close to mentioning them at all times. It's been like 7 years. Anyways, the plan is to make my 6 main characters into dolls, which is why I was asking if I should make a video about their designs and personalities so you have at least some sort of familiarity with them. I'll be making them in height order, which means we'll be starting with this guy, Lazuli. By the end of that series, I'll hopefully be knowledgeable enough to make a tutorial on how you can make a BJD in Blender too. However, with my upload schedule, that will take me a while. Like a few years a while. So don't wait for me to make one, just start. There's a playlist in the description and end card with everything I watched as a starting point. Next video won't be a doll video, it'll be a cosplay of a very, how should I say this, purple guy. See you then.
I ain't gonna let it get to me.
Doho Ankahankalus. Some massive doho, okay. Massive doho Ankahankalus. Massive doho Ankahankalus. Why do I do this to myself? Massive doho Ankahankalus. Doho. Can you tell I can't read fantasy words? Dohun Kaphankalus? Massive Dohun Kaphankalus. I need to do it without laughing at the end.